Hey everybody, Cole here with Classic Mini DIY, and on today's episode we are going to be taking our windscreen for the front and the rear of the car, installing those, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So you won't want to miss it. Stay tuned for that. All right, so on today's episode, as I said, we're going to be taking our front and rear windscreens and installing it on the Classic Mini. This is something that I've had a lot of requests for, but I've never really needed to do it on my car because they were already installed. But since we're redoing Bad Wolf, it's a good opportunity for me to show you guys exactly how to do that. It's a pretty straightforward job, but it can be pretty difficult, and you are going to want an assistant to help you out. On today's episode, Haley, my wife, is going to be helping me put the front windscreen in. And for this job, you'll only need a couple of tools. One is some soapy water. That's just to give a little bit of lubrication to get the kind of fillet strip into the rubber seal. You can also use some rubber safe lube to kind of put into that seam seal and then allow that to glide in and be a little bit smoother to get that fillet strip in. I'll show you guys that when we get to that step of this installation. But to start off, we're going to take the front windscreen and we're going to place it in the inner seal that is already present on the car. Now, taking a look at the front windscreen space, this is a Mark I seal. It's going to be really important that you purchase a seal that is made for your car because this seal is seam sealed at the bottom here. So it's one continuous seal. Some people will purchase later style seals or just the wrong one by mistake, cut it and then put the windscreen in. But what that's going to do is allow a spot for water to get into the car through that seam, and it's not something that you want, obviously. So make sure you get the right seal for your car. In my case, I have a Mark I, it's a 1960, so we have the early seal. And when you're pressing this in, you just kind of push it into place. There's no adhesive, nothing like that you're going to add in. And you'll find that it should fit pretty snugly, and it might be a little bit difficult to get in around the corners once you're kind of at the end of getting it all pressed into place. So next up, we're going to grab our glass and we're going to go ahead and place it in this inner seal here, not the one that's on the outside. That's for our fillet strip. Now you'll see at the beginning here, we essentially just took the Dawn soap itself. We didn't add any water at this point and applied that directly into that seam that the window is going to get placed into. That's the inner gap that's on this window seal. You'll notice we're not applying it to the fillet strip just yet. After that, we are going to lay a blanket down, make sure that things are not going to get bumped, and you can see the window has been treated with a spray bottle of soapy water. From here, we are going to kind of work that glass into that inner seal. It's a pretty finicky job. You essentially have to kind of press from one side, use these little plastic pry tools to help you out, and you can press from one side while the other person is pushing from the other. You just got to kind of work that seal up and over that glass. You can see me jumping into the car, Haley pressing on the outside, and it's a process of just kind of back and forth to get this into place. Then at the end, you can see me kind of pressing that seal out from the inside while Haley's making sure that it goes over and around that glass. Okay, so you probably saw us struggling quite a bit with that. It is a difficult job. There's no way around it. It's just kind of one of those jobs that you kind of got to push through. But the key is lubrication. I said before that you might not need it for this inner seal, but Haley, she was right. You do need to put a little bit of soap, or as we said, rubber safe grease inside there. And this is going to allow the seal to kind of come up and then envelop the glass as it presses down into place. It's really important that the outer seal can lip over the glass, and it almost seems like, and it really kind of is, the whole glass needs to be going in at about the same time. You can start on one side a little bit, but overall, you just got to kind of work it together and kind of get this seal over everything it needs to go over. Then come back and just check it to make sure that it's really in there where it needs to be. So to start off, you're going to want to get the bottom edge in. That's going to make it the easiest. So you start with the bottom and then kind of work the top down into place. You also probably saw me on the other side and then Haley over here kind of pressing that seal out. These little plastic pry tools are really, really great. They're not going to put too much strain on this tempered glass, and they're not going to scratch anything if you decide to like slip or go something like that. But this will allow you to kind of press that seal out and then work the glass down in place. Next step, we're going to install the Filet seal all the way around, and that's a whole job in itself. All right, and for the next part, which is the last part of this installation, you are going to put the little Filet strip seen here into this gap. Now this installation process is the same on the front and the rear windscreen, but the way that it works is you take your installation tool. So this one is what's called the heavy duty Filet tool. They do make a slightly less expensive one, but I personally prefer the nicer one. It's a little bit stronger and just a little bit easier to get down into this fillet. Now to do this, you take your Filet strip, and it's a little counterintuitive, but you kind of finagle it down into that opening, and then you kind of shove the Filet in there, and then you work it forward, slowly pressing that into place. Now you'll find that it might kind of pop out every once in a while, and that's okay. And when it does that, you'll just kind of want to work it back in, and you'll be left with a fillet that looks something like that. Now you'll see this back one here kind of didn't go in all the way. You can get a little screwdriver or your plastic tools and press that in, but essentially you just need to do this across the whole windshield, and that's what's going to give it its kind of seal and make sure that the windshield doesn't pop out when you're driving down the road. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do is put the glass in our doors. Now you can see I've already put the glass in on the driver's side door because I wanted to show you guys a little something that we're gonna be doing with these windows. It's a little bit different than your standard Mark I. Now you'll notice there are two little thumb screws on the two ends and two unfinished tabs that I've already made here. What this does is it's holding the channel and the windows in place. This is a suggestion that I got from one of my friends who's owned his early Mini since he was a kid, and he did this on his car. So you guys know that I live in North Carolina, where in the summer it gets really, really hot. And one thing about the Mark I that is not super great is these slider windows when it comes to heat. You either get a small sliver of window here, or a small sliver of window here, or a combination of those two, and that's it. There's no additional airflow coming into the car, and as you guys know, Minis don't have air conditioning. So this is a simple way to allow airflow into the car when you know that it's not going to be raining. Essentially, you undo these two thumb screws, this whole channel, ridge, and windows all kind of lean out and will come out. That's the way that you install them, where you kind of lean them into place with the two gaskets, the one up here and then the one along the channel here. The only difference is what's holding this rail in at the bottom are these two screws and these two tabs, as opposed to screws down into the actual door. Now this is something that I'm going to try for a little while, and I have a feeling that I'm going to love it, but you know, with all things, trial and error does teach us lots of different ways to set up a Mini the way that you want it. As you can see, this door is all done, but we're going to jump over to the other side. I'm just going to show you guys how I'm doing it, getting everything installed and getting those tabs installed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up the glass installation video. It's not a super complicated job, but it can be kind of difficult, especially if you're doing it by yourself. So I would definitely recommend seeing if you can find a friend to help you out. One person inside, one person outside, working that gasket all the way around. Also with this, we have fully wrapped up the glass on the Mini. And that almost wraps up all of the interior things, which is pretty exciting. I am super ready to get to the engine stuff, but this has to go back to the paint shop to fix a few things that I mistakenly messed up. So this is probably going to be the last episode of the year, and I hope you guys have a wonderful new year, and I will catch you back in January after it's back from the paint shop, and we'll get into the engine stuff next. But thanks so much for joining, and until I see you guys again, you know the drill. Enjoy those minis, and motor on. See you later.